Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Fermo. Welcome to the sixth episode of Fangirls Only. This week, our special guest is Blake Little. Blake is a singer-songwriter from Ontario, Canada, and recently released a new single called Spring. So, Blake, do you want to tell the viewers more about yourself?
Um, Hi everyone. My name is Blake. I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario. I'm now living, well, not currently, but I go to school in Kingston, Ontario. I go to Queens. I'm a student studying film currently, and then yeah, I'm planning on hopefully releasing some summer songs though, which brings actually ironically my song of the summer is titled Spring, which is a little bit redundant, but yeah, that's kind of been the most recently exciting thing I've I've been working on for sure. But I'm very excited to have that actually come out on streaming. It is now out on YouTube, but like it's kind of like a more demo version that's out. I can't wait to actually have like the fully mixed, fully the drums are gonna be maybe tweaked a bit. I don't know.
Like the studio version is going to be on like Spotify and Apple Music and all.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so again, as I said, your new single Spring basically dropped recently, so it's really good. So what's the song about, and does it have any cool stories along with it?
Um, okay, so this is kind of a weird one. So normally when I write songs, I try my best to like, you know, I'm inherently not normally the guy who sits down when he's happy to write a song. It's like, oh, I have something I'm feeling. I gotta work it out as bad as that is. Or maybe not. But so I normally though try to not have it be about one person or one specific thing. However, spring happened to come it was one of those things. I had the actual instrumental worked out for a week or so. I was like tinkering with it, and then um a girl I was speaking to at the time, things for better or for worse, it was just like life got busy, and it was one of those things. So the line in the song actually is kind of referencing, like sometimes our lives compromise what we want, essentially, is kind of the that was the initial premise for writing Spring. But looking at it, I was looking out the window, it was pissing rain out, and I was just like, I remember having numerous conversations where I'm like, I don't know, fall over spring. Spring is still just such a like a mucky kind of icky time. I know it's a beautiful day out right now, but like this is kind of like my transition to summer at this point. Like I'm like mentally out of spring, you know what I you know what I mean? So there isn't specifically one cool story with spring other than I guess in the second verse I was there's a movie I referenced that like I was like I doubt that anybody's ever going to understand that this is a movie reference. I say the name Mr. Young, and it's like Mr. Young spelt with a J actually, because it's from some random obscure like Johnny Depp movie from the 2000s. It's not obscure if it's Johnny Depp, but you know what I mean. So that's the closest thing I think to like an outside anecdote. And I mean for not dishing out dirty laundry, I feel like there's just not much more that can really be said about spring, as bad as that is.
Okay, so do you have any upcoming music you can tell us about?
Um, so I would say definitely. So in the YouTube video for spring, actually, there is a EP that I'm currently working on. It's probably going to be 4 songs. Maybe might push its way up to like 5 or 6, but it's currently the working title is Solstice. So totally going with the theme of I can tell you about like kind of like thematically the idea is like spring is going to be on this, and it's the idea where if we're starting in spring, by the end of this EP spring has been done, or it's time that the solstice is a time of change. It's a time it's new, coming into a new, the season is quite literally changing. So to me I was just like, oh, if I feel stuck in the mud of spring, I might as well like, I feel like it's a fitting title, and there's a song as well on the record that is going to be called Solstice. So that was kind of the that right there was definitely I don't know, a fun little way to tie it together, I thought. And I'm very excited to show people that I think I'm currently toggling between whether or not I want to release another single from it or wait to just release the whole EP. But I don't know. That's something I might have to ask. opinions on.
Can't wait to hear the whole EP. What has been your biggest motivation or inspiration when you're making music?
Like, okay, so I'll start with inspiration because like the motivation side of things, like this is going to sound cheesy, and it kind of is in some regard, but like ever since I was a kid, like before I can remember, I've been told anecdotes from other people that was like, yeah, you used to just like randomly sing, just belt out whatever. So it was like to me, like I do believe it's not like people aren't made to do certain things, but people are drawn to certain things for whatever reason. And so music has always just been something that's like naturally been something I've just been drawn to. So the motivation side of things has always been like something that just has felt very like just like second nature or whatever. But inspiration, definitely got to say my father has been a huge influence on me. 100%. He's not a musician himself, but for whatever reason he loves to just tinker around on guitars. He actually refuses to learn how to play a guitar. He is the ultimate like give me that guitar and I hope nobody else is around because I'm just hitting whatever notes. Not I'm sorry dad, please. He's probably going to watch this. But either way, him always having guitars laying around the house and always showing me just some awesome 70s rock and cool music growing up definitely influenced what I enjoyed listening to growing up, but also just 100% was like the pushing factor for a long time for like what kept me going. And even to this day, he still is a he's always in my corner helping me push my career forward. So I'm very grateful for him.
That's amazing. So, what made you decide to pursue music and a career in music?
um like I said, it's always just felt right. For me, I've actually been like in some way I've not put it on the back burner, but I like with university and wanting having other ambitions, especially with film and things like that. I feel like in some ways I could be pushing music harder than I have been, but I for me I think it's always just been that like they say do what you love, right, and you never have to work a day in your life or whatever the saying goes. And I love music. So as if I can find a way somehow to, every day of my life be able to make a living or be able to live and just make music, that is definitely something that I hope to be make feasible. So for me, it all stems down to the fact like of just enjoying what I'm doing from the start, and then if something comes from there, something comes from there. That's kind of the mentality you have to have, I think.
What kind of singer would you classify yourself as?
So like I definitely I I don't know exactly like I'm somewhere like vocally wise. I don't know my actual range. It's probably closer to a baritone. I can push some tenor notes. That's getting in the technical side of things. I definitely am like, though if you're talking like stylistically, super belty. As much as like it's not necessarily my favorite era of music, but like just purely by the tone and the aggression that comes out of it, like Eddie Vedder or Lane Staley of Alice in Chains, like that 90s grunge sound
Mm.
definitely comes out in the voice at least, not even if that's not like the sound of the songs that I'm making. It definitely is, at least vocally, the sound that comes from it. I have a loud voice, so it's hard to do even ballads or softer songs without still
Mm.
having a very like, oh, that's very loud.
Okay, so this is the last question, and I know you were in the studio yesterday making music, so really inspired me to ask this question. So, what's your creative process when you're making music?
Oh, that's a good question. So do you mean in the writing process or in the actual studio?
I guess the whole thing.
Okay. So one thing I will say, it's like it's always different. It's always like the places that it starts. But I'll give you the rundown. So the song I did yesterday is called "Feeling It." I'll give you the rundown of how "Feeling It" worked out. "Feeling It" is an example of where I had this idea for a melody, had no idea what I wanted to sing about. So there's usually two directions that the song either goes. It either goes, you have something you want to talk about and you're looking for a means to tell that story. That's like a song like Spring, where it's, you sit down with the intent and okay, how am I going to tell this story now? And then the other direction is you sit down and you have, a song like Feeling It that I recorded yesterday, where it's like, okay, I have this instrumental and this melody that I really like. What am I going to sing about over it? And I definitely find the former easier. Like when you have something to write about, it's like you can just kind of figure out what you want to do musically with it. Um, so definitely Feeling It has been a song that's like I've been trying to tackle for over a year. And so now I'm in the studio with it. Essentially, the songwriting process eventually happens with it, just with like I find the best way to write when you don't know what to write about is find two or three different things and blend that. Um, so Feeling It is a blend of both, feeling lost. It's about addiction. It's also simultaneously about a party song about going out on a Friday night. And it's that I found that in the writing process, if you write about two or three things all at once, it simultaneously becomes about all of them and about none of it specifically. So it can be like I know that sounds very strange, but like what I mean is like it's just the way that people interpret the song now become has its own entirely new meaning. And so that's kind of where I ended up being with this song. So that's the writing process of it. And then the studio is a totally different beast though, because you get in there and you go in with this idea mentally of like, oh, this is what I think the song is going to sound like. And then it's sometimes it's the mistakes that happen in the studio that end up being like the most treasured, where it's like, you know um, a great example is like there was a song called Attic Salt on my last record that the song has a saxophone at the very end of it, and the only reason it has a saxophone is because at the end it's an acoustic like ballad, this song. So at the very end, the producer joked to me when going, all right, now time for the saxophone solo, right? And like we laughed about it momentarily, and then I said, "Fuck it, yeah, let's try it." And then it ended up being one of my favorite things on that whole record. Like it was such a beautiful moment, and that is an example where it's like I could have never like came up with that just like sitting at home. That was like something that comes down to a matter of having fun in the studio, totally being open to the creative process, even when the song is already quote unquote done. Um, Yesterday there wasn't too much of that the creative tinkering. There was a couple of moments, but for the most part yesterday was pretty the song sounds like I thought it was going to sound like. But either way, I do think in the studio is where a lot of the magic that you just like you can't it's not tangible. You can't really be like, oh, I know what it is I did in the studio that made all these things happen. It's like a lot of it is just very, very, very happy coincidences.
That's amazing. So that was all the questions. So thank you so much for coming on. It was great having you.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Okay, so hope you have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Bye.